Good evening. I'm your moderator, Kit Cabello, and I'm joined here today by my co-host, Jenny Floyd. Welcome to Harlan's Media, Illinois Libertarian Lieutenant Governor and Governor Race Forum. We are live streaming here at the Q4 radio station, and we want to thank the Q4 radio administrators for letting us use the studio to host this forum. To our audience, you can listen to Harlan's Media every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time on 1680 a.m. or go to www.que4.org, or you can see us live on the Harlan's Media Facebook page every Saturday. I do ask that the audience keep their cell phones on mute or silence, and also please keep all your comments to yourselves out of respect to all the candidates here who have joined us here today.
Due to time constraints, both individuals on the forum should strive to keep responses and rebuttals to 1 minute. For critical issues, the moderators may extend time and encourage a longer debate. Neither participant has been given the questions ahead of the forum. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to answer the questions. The emphasis here will be on substance and accuracy. If everyone is prepared to begin, I would like to thank all of you for coming, and I'd like to invite each candidate to make a brief 2-minute statement.
We'll start with you, David.
Yes. Hi, my name is David Earl Williams III. I hope everyone can hear me. So I was in the U.S. Navy. I wrote a novel. It's called Valor Tale. Really long. And prior to actually running for office, I actually was involved with the Ron Paul 2012 campaign. I did a lot of activism work for that, and then once 2014 came around, I was approached by a bunch of people like, oh, you should run for Congress. And I was like, oh, that sounds really insane. But you know what? For my first congressional run, I raised $55,000. I lost my primary as a Republican by 1,427 votes. I eventually ended up joining the Libertarian Party because I wanted to spread that message of limited government and maximum freedom that matters the most to all of us, because people are getting tired of Democrats and Republicans, more of the same. And if I have the chance to bestow the nomination of Lieutenant Governor with the Libertarian Party of Illinois, as my work I've been doing on the south side of Chicago, west side, and throughout some parts of the state, we're going to spread the message of libertarianism wide and far. I'm going to just keep it short at that and let my answers speak for itself down the line.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sanj Mohip. I'm an IT consultant. I'm an entrepreneur, and sometimes I'm an inventor. I am the oldest son of 2 immigrants from the island nation of Trinidad and Tobago. I was born in Chicago. I've been an Illinois resident my entire life. Growing up, I was always an anti-war person and an anti-war advocate. That led me to the Democratic Party in the 90s because I assumed they were anti-war because they were so strongly against Operation Desert Storm in '91. As that turned out to be not the case, I was looking elsewhere and I came across libertarianism. I started reading about libertarianism. I read a book by Mary J. Ruard that changed my political thinking, and it was at the same time I came across speeches by Ron Paul. This was about 2007. 2 years ago, I decided to join the Libertarian Party, both nationally, the state, and my local chapter in Chicago. I was a delegate for John McAfee. I worked on his campaign. I worked on the Vote Different initiative. Last year, I started a book club that looks at themes of liberty. And this year, I decided to run for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
All right, thank you both very much. I also want to thank our timer for stepping in to make sure everything goes according to plan. Thank you again, sir, for your volunteer service. All right, that being said, as the race for governor of Illinois continues to gain media attention in our state, the Democratic and Republican candidates have their respective lieutenant governors with them on their campaign trails. It should be noted that the 3 Illinois Libertarian candidates, while they have been campaigning, do not have a declared lieutenant governor with them. During this campaign, to get the Illinois Libertarian Party nomination, which of the 3 candidates stand out the most to be nominated, and what is holding both of you back from being on one of their respective campaign trails? David, we'll start with you.
Well, I think that's a silly question, first of all, because I can't choose any of them. That would just be putting my candidacy in danger, and it's just smart politics. I'm just going to say all 3 of them are just fine. That's my answer.
Well, we have 3 good candidates, and each one is approaching things differently, and I feel I can get on board with whoever the party chooses. With John Stewart, from day one, he's been talking about the violence here in Chicago and in East St. Louis. I think that's a great topic to start with. With Kash Jackson, from day one, he's been about reforming family law, and I can see how that will change juveniles, and they would have a better family basis so they don't fall into crime. And finally, with Matt Scaro, he's been adamant about changing the way that we look at the pension for, for the public sector. And I would be happy to work with any of the 3 candidates.
Thank you. Your job as the Lieutenant Governor is traditionally to act as a backup support for the Governor in his mission and agenda. As Libertarians, we are always independent and often disagree with each other. Can you think of a scenario where you would find yourself in disagreement with the Governor, and how would you handle that issue both publicly and privately? Let's start with David.
Okay, let's see. Well, I'm going to be the Lieutenant Governor, so whatever duties that are delegated out from the Governor, my Governor, I'm going to do it with no problem. Now, if it comes to where something that is infringing on the non-aggression principle, for example, I'm going to have to put them in their place and remind them we're different from the Democrats and Republicans, because we can't sit here and be on a high horse saying, oh, they're corrupt, and then, be somewhat submissive or meek about it, and then turn a blind eye towards corruption. We're going to have to remind them why we're doing this in the first place. I'm not going to be a lapdog, that's for sure. But, for myself, being either a heart attack, prison sentence, or even an impeachment away, I could be governor myself. So this is important that we push those values of the Libertarian Party, across the state, instead of our own personal agendas.
I've always been an advocate, well, since I've joined the party, I've been an advocate for liberty, and I will continue to do so. If there's an instance where I feel the sitting governor is not looking at the issue from a liberty perspective, I will come in and talk to him and hope we can somewhat come up with a compromise that both of us feel comfortable with. If I don't feel comfortable with anything the governor is doing, I will always go into his office and tell him. I hope we remain on a friendly term, but if it gets heated, it gets heated.
In the state of Illinois, the Office of Lieutenant Governor of Illinois is responsible for the duties of Chairman of the Governor's Rural Affairs Council, Chairman of the Rural Bond Bank of Illinois, Head of the Illinois Main Street Program, and Chairman of the Illinois River Coordinating Council. In Illinois, though, the Office of Lieutenant Governor is limited in power due to the adoption of the Illinois Constitution of 1970. At one point, the Lieutenant Governor served as President of the Senate. Losing this position made the Lieutenant Governor's job less significant. As third-party candidates who are working to get the Illinois Libertarian nomination for Lieutenant Governor, what changes will you bring to the office, and why should it remain relevant in the state of Illinois? We'll start with you this time, sir.
I'll go with one of the River Council. I'll talk about that one, the Illinois River Council. Right now, the Illinois River is being devastated by invasive species, the Asian carp, or the silver carp, the bighead carp, that's what they're also called. And what we can do with that is I would want, as a lieutenant governor, to be able to say, let's loosen regulation to allow commercial fishermen to be able to fish out these invasive species, because they're a delicatessen in Asia still, and they can also be used for fertilizers. So if we can have commercial fishermen fish for those, we can facilitate trade with Asian countries better. We could also, it frees up.
Sir, your time's up.
Okay. Oh, right. My favorite question, actually. So, being the chair of Illinois' Main Street program, Actually, it's a program that works with the neighboring tax districts, traditional downtowns to revitalize and to work in the urban and rural areas. So I've always talked about for a year now running for office, installing economic freedom zones in the most urban and rural areas that suffers from poverty, for example. See, having economic freedom zones in place would lower the sales and property tax, and also would empower people, black, whatever, it doesn't matter, to start their own businesses. They would keep the businesses in their neighborhoods, and this would actually attract new businesses to come in. So it's very small business oriented, and I think Illinois could use a lot of that, especially on the south and west side of Chicago, where I've spent a lot of my time. The thing is, we don't need another government bailout. You know, when it comes to poverty and lack of jobs, people need, well, obviously jobs. They need to be empowered to go out and do that. And now when it comes to the rural, I think it's the Rural Affairs Council, there's Evelyn Sanguinetti, the current lieutenant governor with the Republican Party. You know, she's touting this big, you know, that's fine.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next question. In your opinion, has the past 2016 and current election cycle made Americans lose trust in the two establishment parties and reevaluate third parties as a political force? We'll start with Sanj.
I think we've become more divisive, and I think voters are getting disgusted with what they're seeing. So I think now is a very good time for third parties to enter races all across the country, not just Illinois. We've never had a better time than now, and with social media, that's another way we can compete with the two big parties. Thank you.
David?
Well, going across the state, again, you know, a lot of people are sick and tired of Democrats and Republicans, and they do want a viable third party, and I do believe that's the Libertarian Party. And you've set up the right candidates, no matter who wins the governor position or lieutenant governor position. I feel pretty confident that the Libertarian Party can just do better than 5%. I think they could go all the way and win. And that's not being delusional. I just think that if you have two billionaires, a millionaire and a billionaire running, they're going to look at common folk. I'm a common person. I make less than, I'm ashamed to say this, less than $40,000, but that's what I make. He's not rich. The three governor candidates are not rich. I think they can really relate to the average person who's struggling out there.
All right, thank you very much. The Libertarian Party has stated in the past and even currently that they believe in government should be as small and as cost-effective as possible. In your opinion, do you feel the role of lieutenant governor is even necessary? And if not, what would you do if elected to eliminate the position? If you feel the position is necessary, what would you do to reduce the burden of the office on the tax-paying citizens of Illinois? Sanj, we'll start with you.
Okay, well, I still want the position there. I feel that if the governor had to step down, it'd be nice to have another libertarian take his place. That said, we can reduce the office. We can make it part-time if need be. We could have the lieutenant governor come in when needed. He can rent an Airbnb for the evening if he needs to be at Springfield, and if we're going to cut anything, we need to cut the deputy governor. Right now, Bruce Rauner has two deputy governors, and I don't know what they do, but they both get $130,000 for their salaries. Thank you.
That's my turn.
Yes,
okay, so yes, I think it would be kind of silly at this point in time to cut the office of lieutenant governor, even though there have been studies that have been done, the Chicago Tribune, and sometimes they said it would save $1.6 million. I wish it would save that much. But yes, he was right about the deputy governors or whatever they're called. Get rid of those. But I said to myself, geez, if I'm ever going to be governor, I get the opportunity. I think we need to cut the compensation of the state executive branch to based on the state median income of $58,000, and along with that, a lot of these funds that are allotted to the state executive offices need to be cut in half, and you would actually save about $530 million right there. You know, this state legislators, they're full-time. They're not going to vote against themselves. You know, they're making about $63,000 to $67,000 a year, and the chief judge and there's other judges, they make about $214,000. So, you know, I want to be practical. You know, we can make the cuts, at least in the state executive branch, and that's what I would do.
All right.
Illinois is currently in the process of recovery since the budgetary crisis between Governor Rauner and Speaker of the Illinois State House, Michael Madigan. This election cycle, there is potential for a new governor, state senate, and state house. If Illinois is to truly recover, what will the new governor need to accomplish first? And what is needed for all the branches in the Illinois state government to work together? David, we'll start with you.
Let's see, I think we are still at a triple B negative rating. That's right above junk bond status. I could be wrong about that. I might need to be corrected. But what the governor, if it's going to be a Libertarian lieutenant governor, they probably need Libertarians to be in the General Assembly, because you're going to be bashing your head against the wall and be very frustrated if you're making a bunch of broken promises, you know, saying that, well, we can make the governor, lieutenant governor part-time, but, you know, these are full-time positions. That's not going to change for a while. I like to be a realist, so I think, again, going back to my previous answer, you're going to have to focus more on where you can make the cuts based on those budgets there in the state executive branch before you go anywhere else.
Sanj?
Well, the biggest thing we're going to have to deal with is this looming pension crisis. The state says we're going to be owing $130 billion. Moody's investor services say that's closer to $250 billion. From day one, our Libertarian governor is going to have to deal with this and have to come up with a way that we can go forth in the state without bankrupting it. And we're going to have to work with Democrats, Republicans, Green Party, Independents, whoever else is elected, because not just the governor is going to be able to do this. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, that will be the final question for the lieutenant governors. However, before you both leave the stage for our live stream audience, can you please give your websites where people can learn more about your effective campaigns? David?
Sure. It's www.dewforpolitics.com.
Mine is www.votemohip.com.
Thank you very much. All right. It should be noted that the three candidates are here. However, we do have a promise to at least keep this live stream going, and out of respect for everyone that's here, we need to continue on. Gentlemen, we'll also be starting with you, Mr. John Stewart. Can you at least give yourself a 2-minute introduction to who you are, your campaign, what you're about? Please make it 2 minutes.
Sure. John Stewart, 50 years old, going to be 51 on March 4th. Former professional wrestler on ESPN, and now for the past 15, 20 years on and off, the president and owner-operator of my family's car dealership located in Chicago. I'm a married father of 3 lovely children, 2 teenage daughters, so this is one that I have no hair left. I'm sending them to Kash's house eventually after the campaign. They're going to go to Camp Kash. You can straighten them out. It's been incredible. This is my last campaign. I know I said this last debate, but since this is the last debate, this is literally the last primary debate of my life. I'm no longer going to be an active candidate after this campaign. So I just want to first of all say thank you to everyone in Illinois that has ever voted for me or endorsed or support me. It's been one hell of a 25-year run, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. All the pain, the tears, the miles, the money, the aggravation, it's all been worth it, because when you can look at somebody and they believe in you and you give them hope, that really makes it all worthwhile. I've spent a year talking about how to fix our budget, legalization of marijuana, the gang crime that is being committed in the west and south side of Chicago and St. Louis. I've given solutions, I've given answers. I've told everyone that out of any candidate in the Libertarians and the Democrats and the Republicans, I feel I have the most skin in the game and the most at stake with my family business, with my home and commercial real estate ownership, and being here since 1967. This is my home. I love Illinois, and it is my pledge and my hope that as your next governor, we are going to restore the greatest state into the country back into the greatest state in the country. Because what is wrong with Illinois can be fixed with what is right with Illinois, and I believe that. Thank you.
All right, Kash Jackson, we'll start with you.
Thank you guys so much for having me here tonight. My name is Kash Jackson. I am a retired Navy veteran after 20 years of naval service. I'm also a father of 3 beautiful children that cause my hair to go gray and not fall out. I am a political activist. Since I left the Navy, I've spent much of my time being an activist to reform the judicial system, specifically as it pertains to family law. But in going through that process, that's what really opened my eyes to all of the wrongs being committed inside the judicial system, whether it's in criminal court or family court or probate court. That really opened my eyes to the disservices being heaped upon the people of the state of Illinois and nationwide. And I felt a deep conviction after having sworn an oath for 20 years to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I had done an adequate job about defending that Constitution from foreign threats. But I hadn't done my job as it pertained to the domestic threat because I was ignorant, I was naive, and I believed that what was happening in my country was good. But it wasn't. And when I saw that, when I experienced it, I knew I have an obligation to continue to fulfill that oath, to earn every red cent that every American ever paid me over 20 years of military service. And this is the best channel that I felt that I could do that with the time that I have. And I've been giving everything that I've got for the last 12 months, traveling this state, being away from my children and my family, and still going through the judicial process myself. I've been to court nearly 100 times fighting to be a dad, and that is fundamentally un-American. It's a travesty in my country that this is happening. That's just one small piece of what's happening. There's so much more. There's our pensions and our property taxes. There's our citizens being forced out of their homes that have paid for these homes. These are all travesties in our state. It is my job to fight what has been happening to Illinois citizens and to return the freedoms that I fought for 20 years. Thank you.
All right, Master Scaro, it's all with you.
All right, first and foremost, thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you to Q4 Radio for hosting this. Thank you to Hardlands Media. Thank you to the Libertarian Party of Illinois. And thank you to everyone who is watching online. My name is Matthew C. Scaro. I am a Libertarian candidate running for Illinois governor. Most of you already know that. Tonight I am going to tell you and show you why I am the best candidate standing on this stage, the candidate who should earn the nomination for the Libertarian Party of Illinois, because I am ready to change this state. Over the last year, I have laid out in detail my policies and how we are going to fix Illinois, whether it was pensions, whether it was Medicaid. Today I laid out education reform. Time and time again, I put out detailed plans of exactly what needs to happen. We as libertarians need to put out a candidate who can do that, who can explain the solutions for the state of Illinois. I believe I'm that man. I believe I've shown you that I'm that man. And I believe that anyone who's watching and knows anything about me would say that. Number two, and by far, I'm the best speaker. I'm the best communicator. And that's really important, isn't it? You know, I was so nervous when I was walking in here. When I get in my car, I'm almost shaking. When I'm in the back there, I'm doing yoga or I'm shadow boxing, because I get worried. But then I come out on this stage, and I feel so comfortable. Because I am a good communicator, and God gave me that gift. And the third part, and probably the most important part, is I am by far the most principled libertarian standing on this stage. And what are we if we are not the party of principle? And every time you put me on that stage, I will talk about the principles of this party, of the non-aggression principle, and how freedom and liberty is the way that we fix Illinois. Now I want to make a promise to everyone who's watching, a promise to all the libertarians here in the state of Illinois. If you nominate me, I will run a campaign better than any you have ever seen. I will grow this party larger than anything you have ever known. And I will run a campaign that you can be proud of. I give you my word, I swear to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for introducing yourself.
Can we switch places?
All you are fine. So, starting off, the political system in the United States is dominated by the Democratic and Republican parties. It's difficult for third parties to have a spot on the debate stage or get coverage from the media. In Illinois, the Green and Libertarian parties need to get 25,000 signatures or more to be on the ballot. In recent elections, many third parties struggle to get a high percentage of votes during a general election.
Hey, can we get this guy out of here? Seriously, man, we're trying to do a debate here.
Due to how the political system is set up, it may seem impossible for third-party candidates to win. Without any criticism towards your opponents for the nomination, why is your candidacy important to build support for the Illinois Libertarian Party in future election cycles? Kash Jackson, will start off with you.
Well, I think if you're just looking at the core piece of my campaign team, it would surprise many. But those who know me the best, it wouldn't surprise them. I've got members on my core campaign team that supported Bernie Sanders. I've got members that supported Donald Trump. I've got members that supported Gary Johnson. I've got the most diverse campaign team amongst the three candidates. And why is that? It's because of my 20 years of military service and working with people from all backgrounds, and that's what we've been missing. Bringing people together that are disenfranchised, that are fed up with the status quo. I have the ability to do that. It wasn't easy to come by. It took 20 years of military service of being forced to work alongside people of varying religions, of ethnicity, of whether they're Caucasian or black or gay or straight. It didn't matter. We had a mission, and we focused on the mission. We focused on our commonalities, that we're all human beings fighting for the same thing, freedom and liberty. I have the ability to do that and to deliver that. And that can be seen from me working in Springfield. I was just testifying down there with House Bill 4113. It's requiring bipartisan support from Republicans and Democrats. I've already developed a relationship and am developing more relationships daily with legislators in the General Assembly, and I'm not even elected. You don't have to be elected to make a difference. I'm already doing it, not because it's politically convenient, but because it's the right dang thing to do. Thank you.
It's a great question, and it's basically the crown jewel of my campaign and the reason why I'm in this race. To think that you can be a third-party candidate for governor with no experience and no money and think you're going to get somewhere is politically naivete. And it's disillusion. You're delusioning people in this party to tell them otherwise. Being a nice guy, being a great speaker, being great on social media is really, really important in the modern era. But this is still the 30-second soundbite generation, and they listen to radio and TV. To this day, and with my appearance Sunday on the Bruce Dumont Show, the nationally syndicated show, I will have received more media coverage than any Libertarian state party candidate in the history of our party. I don't say that to impress anyone. I say that to impress upon people. If you do not have millions of dollars to stick in this race as a third-party candidate, the only way you are going to reach a massive select group of people to vote for you is going to be through the media. And I have received the most of any Libertarian candidate in the history of our party, other than Gary Johnson. And that's important because when they walk into the ballot box, they are going to look for a third-party candidate that they know of and that they heard of. I mean, I have a candidate, J.B. Pritzker, who said to myself last year, I can't find anybody in politics in this state that says a bad word about you. So I'm enjoying a relationship already with Republicans and Democrats who are basically telling this party, you got a really nice guy there that we all respect. That coupled with the media, the fact that I'm a father, that I'm a businessman in this state, that I've lived in this state my whole life, that is what the people are going to look for when a third-party candidate. They're going to look for familiarity. And me, myself being in the media so many times in this 1 year, and when I get the nomination, if I'm lucky to get that, it is only going to snowball from there. And that is how you're going to get people to vote for a third-party candidate. It's media or money. It's just that simple. Thank you.
Massive.
Now, the way that you grow a third party is you have a unique message. You have to have something that differentiates you from the Republicans and the Democrats, right? The Libertarian Party is not a hybrid party of Republicans and Democrats. We are not a mixture of the left and the right, okay? And we need to get away from that. Look, if I were to go on TV and say that we were a lot like Republicans, that would be shooting us in the foot. And let me tell you why. Because Republicans will look at us and say, you know what? If I'm a Republican, I'm just going to go ahead and continue voting Republican because these guys never get elected. And if I'm a Democrat watching that, I'm going to say, you know what? I hate Republicans. I'm never going to vote Libertarian. So you have to have a message that differentiates yourself. It's not about Facebook followers either, guys. Again, it is about the principles that you put forward. And I am going to put forward a message that no one has ever heard before. Also, when you get in front of the media, you better be able to grab someone's attention real good and real quick. You better be well-spoken, and you better know what you're talking about. Because if you start saying really dumb things, or you don't understand some really basic concepts about Illinois politics, the Springfield and Chicago press corps is going to eat you alive. And folks, I am the only one standing on this stage who has a unique message and understands the solutions for the state of Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you. A current growing conflict between generally conservative state legislators and liberal city governments is state preemption of local ordinances. Some recent examples include preempting minimum wage laws, plastic bag requirements, or local governments mandating the hiring of local contractors. As governor, would you support the state government's ability to preempt local ordinances? We'll begin with John.
Absolutely not. As a libertarian, the biggest message that I could put forth and that I believe in is every day, every month, every year, our government looks for ways to make itself smaller, more accountable, and to do more with less. To get out of our lives as much as possible. That is the libertarian, that is the top of the pyramid of our message. So having the government dictate something about plastic bags or minimum wage is not something I believe in, and it's not something that I would advocate as your governor. Again, in my opinion, the best way for the libertarian governor to react is every day, every year, every week, to figure out a way to get out of our lives as government. It's just that simple.
Matt?
Could you repeat the question for me one more time?
Certainly. A current growing conflict between generally conservative state legislators and liberal city governments is state preemption of local ordinances. Some recent examples include preempting minimum wage laws, plastic bag requirements, or local governments mandating the hiring of local contractors. As government, would you support the state government's ability to preempt local ordinances?
Okay, so I don't believe that the state, as much as possible, should not be getting involved with the municipalities and with the cities. I believe in smaller government. I believe that people should be able to govern themselves. I think that we should remove the state as much as possible. Bring that control down to the municipal level. From there, we bring that control down to the city level. From there, where is the next logical place that we go? It's to the family, to the individual. And that is truly what libertarians advocate for, is the freedom and the liberty of the individual. So no, I would not say that preemptive. I wouldn't say that I support any of those things either. I hated the bag tax. In fact, if you guys ever see me walking out of Jewel Osco, I got a huge armful of groceries because I refused to pay that stupid 7 cents tax. But you know what? I mean, that was Chicago that wanted to do that, and I'm free to move if I like, you know? So no, I don't think that the state needs to get involved. I don't generally I'm not generally an advocate of big government getting involved in smaller levels of government, no.
Kash?
I think there's a healthy balance to be had between the state and local governments. They should be interacting in a way that's healthy for the state and that's healthy for the local community. And I don't believe that on a higher level that the state government should be dictating down on a lower level what those local communities should be doing, because those local communities know best what works for them. They know best what their budget looks like. And I think where we've went wrong is where the state government is placing mandates on local governments, such as unfunded mandates and talking about collective bargaining and prevailing wage. In other matters, I think those are much more important than, say, small ordinances or statutes. I don't think that the state has any real business there. Let the local community handle that, but on larger levels, allow the state to work with inside those communities to address the much larger systemic issues that are really affecting taxpayers. Thank you.
Gentlemen, each of you has stated on your campaign websites why you are running for governor and why you are a libertarian. When it comes to governing, though, what would you be prepared to compromise and negotiate with the Illinois State Senate and House so that Illinois does not suffer from another budgetary crisis that was between Bruce Rauner and Speaker of the House Michael Madigan? Matthew, we'll start off with you.
What am I willing to compromise with them on? I think that there's far too much compromise in Springfield. I'm tired of all the compromise, frankly. Republicans and Democrats seem to compromise all the time when it comes to raising your taxes and taking away your civil liberties. I'm not interested, Kit, honestly, in compromising with these parasites in Springfield. I'm done with them, all right? You're going to see a governor who's going to straighten out the state of Illinois. A new sheriff is in town, Matthew C. Scaro. I'm not going to let them continually raise our taxes and drive people and businesses out of this state.
Real quick, for a quick follow-up, though. Are you concerned that perhaps by doing that it might be similar to what Bruce Rauner did between Michael Madigan, which led for 2 years of no budget in Illinois?
Oh, listen, don't even get into Bruce Rauner. That guy has no legs, man. I mean, he's not willing to do anything. Bruce Rauner's not willing to do anything. He says, I'm not in control. You're absolutely right, he's not. No, listen, everyone talks about how they're willing to compromise and work with Mike Madigan, including the two guys standing next to me. I've vowed war with Mike Madigan, all right? You guys want someone who's going to work with the General Assembly and Mike Madigan? It's these two. Go ahead and vote for them. I'm not doing it.
All right, thank you. John, we'll start with you.
Well, you know, you have a bicameral legislator. You just basically summed up Bruce Rauner's 4-year tenure in Springfield, and I disagree with that. I mean, you're a libertarian governor with a a supermajority Democrat in the bicameral legislature and a superminority Republican, you know, you have to have some compromise.
What are you prepared to
I
compromise?
think that's a great question. So I've already had cursory meetings on the pension. You know, I'm talking 3 to 4% return on investment, renegotiating those pensions. That historically is a number and a percentage that is historically comfortable with pensions all around the country. Right now, we're at around 12 to 13% return on investment. That is not sustainable, obviously, because we have a $250 billion looming pension payment and future pension payments for the next 30 years. $250 billion. So if he doesn't want to actually communicate with Mike Madigan, nothing's going to get done. You're going to have the same 4 years of Bruce Runner, I'm sad to say, but you can work with the supermajority and still not compromise your values and the precepts of the Libertarian Party. And that is what people, the mother from DuPage, the farmer from Pekin that I talked about, those are the things that the voters of Illinois are going to expect the next governor to do, not the failed mistakes of Bruce Runner. And I am certainly not excusing Mike Madigan either.
Listen,
Jackson,
but that's
hold on,
wait. Hold on.
There'll be a time to rebuttal, but it has to be Kash Jackson. He has to
Go ahead.
his time.
Specifically, what would I compromise? It's a difficult question because it really pertains to what issue are we talking about. I'm not going to compromise my morals or my values. I'm not going to compromise the non-aggression principle. I'm not going to compromise what I swore to protect, and that's the Constitution. For me, those things are non-negotiable. But as it pertains to the economy, as it pertains to passing legislation to progress our state forward, you have no choice but to work alongside those that are elected. You cannot be a one-man show, go into Springfield, and realistically believe that you're going to fundamentally change the landscape of Illinois politics in one tenure. It's not going to happen. You must be able to sit down and have a discussion with a Democrat and with a Republican, and you have to be the moderator and bring those two together. You've got to be able to do that. If you lack that ability and that skill set, they're just going to shut you down time and time again, just like they've done with Bruce Runner. You've had an ineffective, inefficient, and frankly incompetent governor's office that's done nothing for the state of Illinois. And if you want to continue that, Matt, go ahead. John and I at least are practical enough and pragmatic enough to say that, look, we have primarily Republicans and primarily Democrats, and there might be a few Libertarians in there that are wearing a lapel for one of those, but predominantly they represent those two parties. We have to go in and we have to find ways to work different angles while not compromising our values and who we are as a party. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to compromise who I am as a man. But I'm going to go in there to get a damn job done because that's what you're getting paid to do. You don't get paid by the taxpayers to go to Springfield and run a puppet show down there and get nothing accomplished. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Mr. Scaro, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
The grand bargain, John. The grand bargain. That's what Bruce Runner ran on, okay? He didn't run on, I'm not going to talk or work with Mike Madigan. He ran on...
But you just said you're not going to talk or work.
Hold on, John.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it, all right? The grand bargain. The grand bargain. I'm not here for a grand bargain because you know what? It didn't work out, did it, John? It didn't work out. No, because he's soft. And you guys are going to do the same thing that governors have done for the past 30 years. You're going to tell me that Pat Quinn didn't say that he was going to work with the two of them? You're going to tell me that Blagojevich didn't say that he was going to work with the two of them? You can't say that. The grand bargain is exactly what Bruce Runner said. So these two would like to make that narrative that I'm the radical here saying that I'm not going to work with them. When I'm the first one who actually said that I'm going to stand up here and fix the state of Illinois, and I don't care what the General Assembly does. So again, guys, if you want the same old thing coming from the Republicans and the Democrats, they're standing to my right. If you want something radically different, someone who's going to advocate freedom and liberty in the state of Illinois, he's standing right here. His name is Matthew C. Scaro.
I don't know how you're going to do anything.
Gentlemen, you will each be given 1 minute to respond. Kash Jackson, we start with you, then John, you'll have the final word, and then we will move on.
Can I borrow your pen so I can give it to Matt so he can go ahead and pen the legislation and go ahead and pass it through both houses themselves?
Why do we need more legislation? We have so many laws and they just ridiculous. Get rid of the laws.
This is Kash Jackson's 1 minute response.
I mean, I don't really know how to rebut that because it's absolutely insane to think that you're going to go there and operate Springfield yourself. You can't do it. You absolutely have to work with people. There's no other choice. You have to set differences aside, okay? And there's a measure, there's a way to do business. And it's not alienating yourself right out the gate from both parties that you're going to have to work alongside, that you're going to have to develop relationships with. Most of those men and women, I believe, really go there with the intent to do good. I think that most of them honestly do. And somewhere along the line, they get corrupted, and I don't know where. I have no idea. But I have to find those that want to work, the Alan Skillicorns, okay? You have to find these people, the LaShawn Fords here that I'm working on a House bill with.
Time. John Stewart.
We are running for governor of the state of Illinois, not viceroy, not king, not the viscount. Did you like that reference? You know, Matt, I mean, you're showing that you really fundamentally don't understand the way Springfield works. For you to go down there as governor and think you're just going to start making laws and rules and pass them because you're the king, you know, I am going to work with Mike Madigan because my family business and my family and my neighbors and the Libertarian Party wants me to do that. And they want me to change the state. But I can't do that on my own. I'm not as naive as you are. I've only been doing this for 25 years. But
all right, we'll try to move on to the next question. Matthew, it's over.
All right.
Move on to the next question.
Thank you, gentlemen. With the growing pension crisis in Illinois and endless budgetary woes, do you consider bankruptcy an option to keep on the table? The political climate in this country may be shifting to allow states like Illinois to legally do this. If you were to support this, what would it look like?
John, we'll start with you.
yeah, I talked about this in my first campaign commercial. Just little work talk here, shop talk here. States cannot go bankrupt. There would have to be a federal law passed by Congress to allow a state to go bankrupt. Municipalities can go bankrupt like cities and villages, but not a state. So that would have to be enacted. I don't agree in going bankrupt. I think we can. There's going to be enough pressure from the citizens. I think there's finally going to be enough of a mandate for them and the pressuring on the legislature to fix our financial problem. And that's a whole gamut of fixing our financial problem. It's renegotiating the pensions. It's capping property tax at 1%. It's legalizing marijuana, which will bring $100 to $400 million back into the coffers of the state of Illinois. Free up the jails, which is going to cost less money to run our jail system. So there are many ways. It just takes a governor and a legislature with a mandate and a will to change. Going bankrupt right now is not an option, but we are careening very closely. If we have a downturn in the stock market, which I think we will, we are going to be unable to pay these pensions. I just want to say one more thing. It's in the Constitution that we have to pay the pensions. If we don't have the money to pay the pensions, that law is in effect. You cannot make that law stick. If it's the law for me to jump over the St. Louis Arch to collect a pension, it's not going to happen because I can't do that. So that is a specious argument that it's in the Constitution. If I don't have the money as governor, I can't pay the pensions. But I don't want it to get to that point. I want to keep the pensions. I want to give the people what we promised them years ago, but we are going to have to fix the situation. But if we don't get together as the governor and the bicameral legislature, we will careen into bankruptcy.
Matthew?
Of course I don't want bankruptcy for the state of Illinois. Everything I talk about is about cutting expenditures for the state of Illinois. Illinois can be ran on a much leaner budget than it is right now. Bankruptcy is absolutely the last option, and it's never ever something that I would sign off or advocate on. But just so everyone knows, the federal government has bailed out Illinois before. This has happened. In fact, it was the Federal Reserve. Can you believe that, guys? A lot of libertarians didn't know that one, and it happened more than once, and it's going to happen again. And you know what? If we don't fix the state of Illinois, if we don't talk about the spending of the state of Illinois, it's going to continue to happen. So no, I don't want us to go into bankruptcy. That's horrible. You know, if you look at what happened in the airline industry, they paid out 60% of what the promised pensions were. I don't want to see that happen, right? And if we can use that as a roadmap, I think that that's quite possible here in the state of Illinois. But in order to cut the expenditures for the state of Illinois, you first have to understand what the expenditures are for the state of Illinois. And I do.
Kash Jackson?
Yeah, absolutely not. I don't agree with filing for bankruptcy because bankruptcy gives those who have mismanaged Illinois funds for far too long. It gives them a free pass and they get to start over. It's like, The slate's clean, I get to start over again while not addressing what put us there in the first place. And before long, we're going to be right back to square one. So absolutely not. We must have structural reform. Pension reform, of course, is at the top of the list. Somewhere between 130 to 200 and some odd billion dollars, depending on which financial institution you talk to. We have to reshape these in such a way that it brings real reform to Illinois. We have to incorporate a 401k. Defined contribution plans will no longer work. We've grown nearly 1,000% since 1987. We've got a household balance of approximately $27,000 per household. In 2017, we added on $8 billion. 2018, we're expected to add on $9 billion. If we don't reform how we're doing pensions, that crisis will continue to grow. By 2047, we're expected to be at $350 billion. I advocate for a 401k, as well as implementing into a Social Security-like benefit, allowing employees to contribute 7% of their paycheck into a 401k, and then allowing for their employer to contribute either 7% to that self-management plan or 7% over into a Social Security-like benefit where they buy a fixed annuity each and every year that will be a fixed pension benefit similar to Social Security for those individuals. By doing so, by 2047, we're expected to be at 90% funding by that time frame using that model according to the Illinois Policy Institute. I think it's practical and pragmatic and something that we can implement. But there are so many other things that we must do. We must look at consolidating the 7,000 units of local government. We must look at the size and scope of our government, the unfunded mandates that we're heaping upon local municipalities. There's a plethora of cuts and changes that we need to make to bring real structural reform while not sacrificing our most vulnerable in our state. Thank you.
I just want to say that Kash made a great point here. 2 weeks ago, Kash thought that the state employee pensions were funded by property taxes. Am I lying, John? Am I lying, John?
That was said.
That was said. I think it's really important.
That is not what was said.
Hold on, gentlemen. Kash, you have 1 minute to respond, and we have to...
Can I just say one thing before they fight? John Mapp, he had a great statement about 6 months ago. We all agree. I just want everyone to know out there in TV land, this pension, this budget crisis that we are going to fix, this is a 50, 40, 50-year plan. This is not going to happen overnight. I'm glad that you actually brought that up. Thank you.
All right, Kash, you'll have 1 minute to respond, and then we will move on.
Well, Mr. said it's absolutely not what I said. When discussing property taxes, what I discussed was that some property taxes in some areas of municipalities does go to fund pensions to fire and police in those areas. You assumed, Matt, incorrectly that I was referring to the 5 large pension funds, and that is not, I did not say that. You implied that, you made that inference, and that was incorrect. I never stated that.
Come on, Kash, let's be honest.
Gentlemen, we are going to move on. Gentlemen, now it's quite clear that there is a support for third parties, especially outside the Illinois Libertarian Party. There's an increase of grassroots movements, unions, groups of people who want to reform the DNC, Black Lives Matter, and there's an increase of women's movements as well. What are each of your experiences in talking to these groups, and how, during the general election, would you want to reach out to these outside groups that may not vote Libertarian or perhaps maybe match any of the Illinois Libertarian Party ideals? Kash, we'll start off with you.
Read the question again for me. It's a little lengthy.
All right. There's a rise in support of third parties, grassroots movements, unions, people who want to reform the DNC, Black Lives Matter, and an increase of women's movements as well. What are each of your experiences in talking to these groups, and how, during the general election, would each of you reach out to these groups that may not vote Libertarian?
Well, I already began doing that long before I ever went into politics. Probably about a year ago, I sat down with the founder of the Black Lives Matter Party in Lake County, Illinois, discussing how federal law and federal legislation is negatively impacting the black community, specifically as it pertains to families and fathers. And then again, out at the mother of all rallies that I spoke at out in Washington, D.C. And many of you guys may have seen, it went viral as a viral video of Black Lives Matter speaking at what was media spun as a Trump rally. It was in fact just a conservative patriot rally. I'm already doing these things. I've already been doing these things. I went out to Standing Rock, North Dakota and stood along the Standing Rock Sioux tribe out there. It's been my business to meet these people. It's been my business to develop relationships with grassroots people that really care about their communities. And while I may not agree with their ideological standpoint, it's hearing the message. What are they saying? And why are they saying it? It takes somebody that understands that and can sit down and can have that conversation and set personal biases aside and perceptions and stereotypes and get to the root of the matter. I've already been doing that. I'm just going to continue what I've been doing and implement it whenever I'm elected as governor. Thank you.
John.
You know, I talk about it in my campaign all the time. I've talked about it for a year, you know. I can back up what I say with facts, and that's important to me. Credibility is important to me. It's going to be important in the general election when I go forward. Back in 2004, when I was going to run against Barack Obama for U.S. Senate, and I contacted the Libertarian Party, I was telling everybody 2008, it was actually 2004, and I dropped out of the race because the Libertarians, we figured it was just going to be too many signatures and too small of a time. Barack Obama was so impressed with who I was and how I carried myself in my past campaigns that he actually wanted to make me part of and head up Republicans for Obama, which I declined to do because I was quitting the party back then. But what did he see in me that other people have seen along the way too? The first day after I announced my candidacy, I made a call to Karen Lewis of the Chicago's Teachers Union. I've had meetings, and I talked about this with Chicago police officers and firemen, talking about their pensions and how misguided they had been. I am the most generalized, well-rounded person to put forth in the general election, and this has been proven in my campaigns. This has been proven by Democrats and Republicans giving me accolades. And this is proof about the votes that I've received in the 3 elections that I have. I am, from day one, that's all I have talked about is not only bringing the Libertarian Party together as one, which I think my people like myself and Kash have really done a pretty good job doing. You know, instead of building brick walls between us all, I try to take those bricks down and build a wall around us all. I'm going to do that with Democrats and Republicans, with the corporate executive and the farmer. And I've proven that. I'm going to do that with the independents. I'm going to do that with the African American community, which I already have. And it's building this coalition. That is going to be the difference in November. And that is what I'm all about.
All right, Matthew?
We have to, right? We absolutely have to reach out to these groups if we want to grow. We have to be able to reach out to everyone. And I think that we have a great message to the Libertarian Party. I spoke at the Green Party chapter. I pulled about 1/3 of those people over, at least to follow me on Facebook. They loved what I had to say. You know why? Because I'm a libertarian who believes in green energy. Last night, I was at the Coalition Against Political and Racist Action, advocating for Gerald Reed, who was tortured by Chicago police. Did you guys know that Illinois actually has a council which looks at torture? We're the only state. So I'm going to these groups and I'm meeting with these people because I actually care. And I have a message that resonates with them. Because if we talk to them, frankly, a lot of these people are going to be voting Democrat, right? A lot of the women's groups, a lot of the Black Lives Matter groups, they're going to be voting Democrat. And I can say to them, you know what? Let's look at Chicago, where we've had a Democrat supermajority for the last 50 years. And we got a real problem throwing black and brown people into cages, don't we? We got a real problem with that. And you know what? The Libertarian Party, or at least me, this Libertarian right here is the only one who can explain a solution, right? Because we are the only ones who are going to end the racist drug war. We're the only ones who are going to teach people about their rights as citizen jurors. We're the only one who's going to explain to them that the government is not the best parent for them. And I can do that. I can reach out to these groups. I can bring them in, and I have. And I will continue to. But we need to do things, guys, that are politically effective. We can't be shooting ourselves in the foot. All right, I'm done.
I like that a former president thought I was a good coalition builder myself. Sorry.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, gentlemen. Illinois currently has 2 bills, and one Senate Bill 316 and House Bill 2353 to legalize cannabis in Illinois. Jeff Sessions recently stated that federal law will supersede state laws regarding legalized or medical cannabis. What will be each of your policies towards dealing with this potential threat to Illinois states' rights? And if cannabis is legalized in Illinois, how will Jeff Sessions' policies damage the Illinois budget if we cannot collect the revenue from cannabis? We'll start with Matt.
So if that bill were to be received on my desk, I would mandatory veto it, and I would remove the taxation portion. I've talked about this time and time again. My opponents here are flip-flopped on it back and forth. John just went on the radio or on TV and said that he wants to bring in $400 million in revenue from marijuana in the state of Illinois. I've been very, very clear about that and said that I do not want to have marijuana taxed. I do not want the money from marijuana going in Springfield bureaucrats' pockets. I want it going in the pockets of farmers, of people who have dispensaries, of doctors. Those are the people who should be making money off cannabis, not politicians. And we are absolutely deluding ourselves if we are going to say that $400 million is going to fix the budget in the state of Illinois. It's a drop in the bucket, folks. It's less than 2%. It's less than 2%, okay? So I think it's less than 2%. Anyway, we need to be serious about this, right? So yes, I would mandatory veto that bill, but it really doesn't matter about that bill, to be quite honest with you, because let me be utterly clear on this. Every victimless crime, unlike these two, every victimless crime will be pardoned if I'm governor. Every single one. Thank you.
Real quick, the question is, what will be your policy to deal with Jeff Sessions? So, John Stewart, we'll start off with you.
Thank you. The policy is that we're going to ignore it. You know, I'm a states' rights guy, which is why I'm a libertarian. Let me repeat that. I'm going to ignore Jeff Sessions. And when I talked about the revenue from marijuana, you can grow it, you can sell it to your neighbor, but if you want a retail location, we're going to tax it. And $400 million might not be a lot for you, but tell that to the African-American family whose child is dead and they want a better school, man.
John, it goes to the
Hold on, this is John.
Yeah, exactly. Well, how do you start getting down $16 billion in bills by just saying $400 million is a drop in the bucket? I'm not willing to rebuttal. I didn't interrupt you. I can't willfully go to the people of Illinois and tell them $400 million is a drop in the bucket, so we're just not going to do it. So again, like I said on TV today, full-fledged legalization of marijuana. You can grow it, you can distribute it, you won't be taxed. If you want a retail location, we will tax you. And it's already working in Colorado. $200 to $350 million is coming in a year in taxes in Colorado. So this is working. It's not some John Stewart pipe dream. This is real facts. And it's a start. You're right. It's not going to fix the budgetary problem, but it is a start. And it shows the people of Illinois that we are serious about getting the budgetary train back on the tracks. And legalizing marijuana is also going to take from the Chicago Police Department, their statistics, 75% of the gangland crime is going to be basically wiped out once we legalize marijuana. So one of my biggest issues of stopping literally the war that is happening on the south and west side of Chicago is taking the issue off the table, which is marijuana and the selling of it and the killing each other of it. Well, you can laugh at the Chicago Police Department.
It's about heroin.
You can laugh about the Chicago Police Department, but that was their statistic that they told me. 70% of the gang crime would be eradicated with the free-flowing sale of marijuana.
Jackson.
It's continued federal overreach into the states that causes many of our problems. We have a 10th Amendment right to deal with this issue as the state sees fit. End of story. The discussion stops right there. There's no more to Jeff Sessions than that Constitution that I swore to support and defend for 20 years. And if he doesn't want to abide by that Constitution, then we have a much larger issue at hand. And that's something that we as a state and as a people must address, and as a nation. When our federal legislators seek to impose the federal will and supersede states' rights, we have a very serious problem. And it's not something as minor as we're just talking about cannabis here. Because that overreach then begins to grow into and manifest into other things. We can address cannabis on so many different levels. There's a health aspect. There's men and women that genuinely need cannabis. We have men and women that are addicted to opioids, that are addicted to heroin. And they could find relief through this system. Why deny an American citizen relief and livelihood? Why deny a child who is struggling with seizures? Why deny them that? It's my job to protect people. It's my job to continue to support and defend the Constitution. It'll be a one-on-one conversation with myself and Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump, because they will not impose the federal willpower into the state of Illinois. It's not their state, it's my state. End of story.
Gentlemen, each of you, as we are running closer to ending this forum, I'd like each of you to give like a 2-minute closing statement and where we can learn more about your campaign. John Stewart, we'll start off with you, then Matthew, then Kash Jackson's final word.
Again, thank you, Heartlands and Jenny, for organizing this. We appreciate it. I would like to personally thank Matt Scaro. Matt has made me laugh more times in a year than I think I've laughed in 5 years. And I know sometimes we bickered, but I want to say that I consider you a friend and a younger brother, and I appreciate all of your candor and your humor on the campaign trail. And I just wanted to say to the most charismatic politician, more than Barack Obama, that I've ever met, it's been an honor and a pleasure traveling a year with you, and you're a very nice man, and I respect all that you've gone through, and I just want to tell you that personally. And again, this is it for me. This is my last primary debate, but going around the state for a year, it's changed me. It's changed me for the better. I thought I was going to change the people in the state. What had happened is I got changed. I became a better father, I became a better businessman, and I became a better, I think, citizen of Illinois. And I think that's, at the end of the day, what it's all about. I presented over a year solutions to the problems that are facing this state, the crisis that this state is in. I have not shied away from the war that's being committed in our borders. I have not shied away from looking directly at the 5 public pension systems and telling them it's going to be my way or no way. That takes a lot of courage to go to a group of 10 Chicago police officers and say, you got to listen to me or you're not going to have a pension, and they're wearing guns. I mean, those were some very difficult conversations that I had. But I think my past as a professional athlete, actor, has prepared me for this and prepared me to give the people of Illinois not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. And I think as a businessman, a politician for 25 years, I think I am, without a doubt, the most experienced and ready person to go into the general election. And I thank all of you, and I thank the Libertarian Party. It's been a hell of a ride. Thank you.
Matthew.
John, great speech. And I agree with John. This has been an amazing experience this past year, going around the state of Illinois. I got to learn so much. I got to talk to so many people. I've had so many great experiences. Look, folks, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This election is big. In fact, it's the biggest governor's race in history. Undeniably. We are going up against 2 billionaires. And we have to put up someone there who can beat them, right? And you know that uncomfortable feeling you got in your stomach just now when I was going at Kash and John about their policies? That's exactly what I'm going to do to J.B. Pritzker and Bruce Rauner, except a lot worse. Because I don't like J.B. Pritzker and I don't like Bruce Rauner, but I do like these two. Look, I'm going to tell you guys this. John Stewart and Kash Jackson have ran a campaign about being good choices, about being good men, and they are good men. They're good guys, they're nice guys. But we're going to war, folks. And when you go to war, you don't send nice guys. You send a fucking gladiator.
All right, Kash.
I'm just looking for the gladiator.
I vow Kash and I, first day of office, get mad off of caffeine.
You know what? Matt makes a great point. If you're going to go to war, well, you might as well take somebody with war experience, and right now I'm the only one on stage with that. In all seriousness.
Which war were you in?
The global war on terrorism.
Okay.
Again, this is his closing statement.
You want I got an extra medal in my drawer, I'll let you have it.
Thank you.
It's not about who can regurgitate statistics the most. It's not about who can regurgitate libertarian philosophy the most. It's about what do people believe? Who do they believe? What do they feel when you talk to them and you look them in the eye? You don't reach people with data points and statistics. You can be the most principled and most educated and have the best damn message on the face of the planet. But if they don't buy you, if they don't buy your bullshit, you're never gonna get them. And all you are is just another talking head. I'm the best candidate up here because I've been to the very bottom. And I've overcame tremendous adversity and odds, and I continue to do so. I continue to fight a judicial system to be a dad to my kids. I continue to fight to bring awareness to the human rights violations occurring in this state and across this country. I'm not perfect, and I've got a ton of mistakes. And I've got a record that, in many ways, I'm not proud of. Most of which I am proud of, because the mistakes that I've made, I've grown as a man. People see that, and it resonates with them. I resonate with men and women like no other person. That is a gift that I was given, and my troubles have been so that I can relate to people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That is going to conclude our gubernatorial debate. I want to thank our candidates and our guests and everyone here at Q4 Radio and the crew of Hardlands Media. March 3rd is when we will decide which one of these three gentlemen becomes our nominee. Hope all of you watching enjoyed this forum. Thank you and good night.
You're watching Hard Lens Media.